Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription.
So I would just like to begin with, asking you, what really inspired you to focus on building partnerships with CPAs?
When people become financial advisors, most of the advice that they get right out of the gates from their firm is work with lawyers, doctors, athletes, and accountants. Well, okay, that it's not easy. I'm going to call up Michael Jordan, and he's going to take my phone call day one, right? So it was one of the things that I had in the back of my mind, obviously, and then as I started working as an advisor, one of the things that I realized was that there are many times where clients are coming to me and they're asking me to do things where I'm not the expert.
Absolutely. I think you said it very right, and I think, it's the tax planning, tax planning plays a very pivotal role in these partnerships, right? I mean, give me an example. I mean, you know, just for argument's sake, what role does tax planning play in this partnership? How significant is it?
Well, I take the two terms of tax planning and tax preparation as separate. Tax preparation is typically what the CPAs are doing, and that's looking in the past. What happened
Mhm.
last year? How can we save you money on last year's return? On what year we're in 2024? How can we save on 2023's return? How can we save money looking backwards? Tax planning is something that's forward thinking. That's looking into the future. How can we save you $1 in taxes tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5, 10 years from now?
Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast. We're trying to figure out with Saul, where we explore the journeys and insights of industry leaders. Today's guest has a profound passion for helping people manage their finances, particularly physicians, from residency through retirement. His unique approach to financial planning has significantly impacted many lives. Folks, please welcome Eric Mangold. Welcome, Eric, to our podcast.
Thank you very much, Saul. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, Eric. Thank you for having us. So I would just like to begin with, asking you, what really inspired you to focus on building partnerships with CPAs?
When people become financial advisors, most of the advice that they get right out of the gates from their firm is work with lawyers, doctors, athletes, and accountants. Well, okay,
Okay.
that it's not easy. I'm going to call up Michael Jordan, and he's going to take my phone call day one, right? Um, so it was one of the things that I had in the back of my mind, obviously, and then as I started working as an advisor, one of the things that I realized was that there are many times where clients are coming to me and they're asking me to do things where I'm not the expert. For example, like tax preparation, or there were times where people needed attorneys, whether it be for a real estate closing or for another legal matter. And what I really enjoyed and also discovered was building a good ecosystem of trusted advisors around me only made my practice better, made my clients better off in the long run, because then they weren't having to waste time looking for an accountant, looking for an attorney, looking for a mortgage banker, whatever it may be. They could call me and say, Eric, do you know somebody? Oh, yeah, you know what? I do know somebody.
Yeah.
Um, and so when working with CPAs, and those relationships took a long time, it was really of, okay, how can I send them clients? Because I have clients coming to me saying, hey, you know what? I'm either not happy with my CPA, or I'm thinking I need a change, or I have a life event and I think I need someone who's a little bit more advanced from a CPA perspective. So that's really where I
Right.
started, is to build that ecosystem.
Well, you bring out a very interesting point, life event. I gather, we had a brief discussion about it, but I would really love for our, listeners to know about that life event regarding your parents, which really kicked in this entire process of you to go towards it. Would you mind sharing that with everybody?
Sure. With my parents that we talked
Yes.
about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my father was you grow up as a boy and your dad's your hero, and my dad was no exception to that rule. Um, he was the guy that always made you feel protected, always made you feel safe. Yet he was one that always taught you the lessons of working hard, being honest, being accountable. Um, and when he was, let's see, when I was in third grade, he had a very nasty operation on his back. He had a tumor growing in his back that rendered him, I wouldn't say handicapped, but it rendered him, um, his walking was slower. His balance was off after the tumor was removed. But that started him on a course for the next 20 years of he had an awful back. His back was, when people say, "How did your dad die?" on the death certificate it says cancer, but in the family we say he died of a bad back because
Mhm.
mentally he was sharp.
Yeah.
Physically, his back had failed him. When we were growing up, he was 6 foot tall. When he passed away, he was 5'9". His back just degenerated. The vertebrae just degenerated on top of themselves through
Gotcha.
many surgeries. It just, nothing was really able to help him. But the thing was, is that when I was in college is when things started getting pretty bad for him in his back. And
Mhm.
he was still working. And I think, frankly, he was willing himself to work through the day-to-day pain. And it was one of the things that I was looking at saying, this is something that where people need help. People need,
Yeah.
they needed help, obviously, from managing my dad's health, but
Yep.
also they needed help from the finance perspective, because as soon I was the youngest of two boys, as soon as I was done college, it was okay, how are we going to load up for retirement? My dad had a pension through his company, but was he going to be able to make it to where he's going to be qualified for his pension due to his back? Was he have to go out on disability first? What did that mean for my mom's work, who worked as a legal secretary and paralegal? What did that mean? And at the time, they could talk to a CPA, talk about who basically would say, well, maybe I could help you, but how about preparing your taxes? Because that's what they wanted to do. They could
Yep.
talk to a stockbroker who
Hmm.
gonna sell them, 100 shares of the new internet stock,
Yeah.
right? But not really give any guidance, any strategy. They could talk to an insurance person who might be able to give some guidance on what insurance might look like for him. But my dad was so sick, there was no way he would qualify anyway. There was no one there that
Yep.
could tie it all together and say, okay, here's a plan of action of how we're going to get your boys through college and get you to retire.
Yep.
There was no one that could do that. I mean, they had investment managers, but if you went to a financial investment manager at that point, you needed $1 million before you got one-on-one service. And my
Right.
parents didn't have that. They were blue collar folks, right? So they didn't
Hmm.
have $1 million just to hand off to somebody. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, they really need a financial planner, a strategist, a wingman. I
Yep.
mean, we have all seen Top Gun. You never leave your wingman.
Yeah,
You,
absolutely. We never do.
you never you and they need the wing and they needed the wingman. So that's really what really piqued my interest at the time
Hmm.
in college. Like,
Hmm.
okay, how do I become a financial planner? Financial
Right.
planner. And that's how it started. Was with my
Hmm.
parents.
Wow. Wow. Riveting. Riveting, no doubt. Riveting, no doubt. And it's only these experiences that drive us to become a better person. And thank you so much for sharing this intimate yet really motivating detail about your life. So we're not gonna, I'm just gonna up the ante and move a little bit further because you've seen this firsthand. You took this up as a mission that there needs to be this cross collaboration between CPAs and financial advisors. But I would want everybody to also know what are the benefits of it. So would you mind talking about the key benefits for CPAs to be working closely with a financial advisor?
I look at it as a very synergistic type of relationship, both ways, because there's times when CPAs need the work with financial advisors, and there's sometimes in financial advisors we need to work with the CPAs. I view it as a collaboration, and the end goal is to help the clients get to where they need to get to financially. And
Yep.
sometimes that is how we grow their wealth. Sometimes is how we protect their wealth. Sometimes it's how we save them in money and taxes. Most of the times it's all these things, right? It's all
Yeah,
of these. And a CPA is a vital partner,
yep,
in improving a client's financial health and getting them to their summit of where they want to be.
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I agree to you on that. You can't be the master of everything, right? I mean,
Mm-mm.
you gotta be there. All right. Now, you have had this fantastic experience of working with CPS for 14 years now, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm sure you have a lot of stories to say, but if you could share me a success story where this collaboration has significantly benefited the client.
Sure. We had a client who was based in New York and ended up moving out of the state of New York. Didn't like paying all the taxes in New York. Um, but when he was originally introduced to me by the CPA, and the CPA is like, he thinks he needs some help, but I'm not really sure. Can you just talk to him? I said, sure. So it was, CPA, the firm that I knew for a long time. I said, sure,
Mhm,
let's just have a chat. And it was a very casual chat. So it turns out that the client was selling in the process of selling his business. It was early days of selling his business,
mhm,
but he didn't know what he didn't know. And he even admitted
mhm.
that. He
Yeah.
even said, and I like using this term too, he knew enough to be dangerous. Um, but he didn't know what he didn't know. And the way that things were structured, the way that he was going about selling his business, and the way he was going about his finances after the sale of his business, he was
Yep.
looking at a six-figure tax bill
Mhm,
and just was thinking that, well, I'm selling my business, I'm selling at a profit. This must be just the cost of doing business. I just have to pay this money in taxes. And I
yep.
feel a lot of people take that approach, Saul. I think a lot of people take the approach sometimes when they get a tax bill, they're like, all right, I guess it is what it is. I got to just pay it. It's the
Yeah.
IRS,
I've
right?
earned it, so I gotta have
Yeah,
some taxes and I gotta pay it. Yeah.
right. And there are a lot of times where that tax bill can be reduced significantly or even sometimes eliminated or
Yep.
mitigated against. We can put strategies in place.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up saving the client over the long period of time. We ended up
Mm-hmm.
we're saving him over six figures in
Mm-hmm.
taxes.
Wow.
Okay. Not only are we saving him over six figures in taxes, he didn't realize that we were able to save him over six. He said, wait a second, you're able to save us. And yes, it was through strategy and strategic planning from the sale of his business. And so at the end of the day, the client is thrilled. I mean, you're saving them six figures in taxes. The CPA looks like a rock star because the clients come to them for innovative tax strategies. And the tax strategy that we put in place for this client saved them a lot of money. And I got a new client, right? But the CPA is the hero. The CPA is the hero because the client went to the CPA for new and innovative tax strategies. The CPA, in working with me, almost like as an extension of their
Mm-hmm.
practice, of the CPA practice, was able to implement these new and innovative tax strategies and is able to save the client a boatload in taxes. To say the cliche, it's a win-win-win.
Mm-hmm.
It is a cliche, but
It
sometimes
is. It
cliches
is.
are true.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. In fact, you rightly mentioned, because like in the back in the days, if you were to think about I want to get my taxes done, you'd go to a CPA. And a lot of CPAs still need to create that change in that mindset, because there is a term that has been doing around client advisory services. You're available for your clients beyond just that compliance need, and you're able to get that done. Obviously, you're not doing everything, but you have that ecosystem in place through which you're able to get it done. Like, you have an ecosystem in place with different professionals in play. And there's this perspective of increasing revenue for both the parties involved, but people just don't, I guess it's more about how do I get started, because everybody wants some mechanism there or some forum or some platform in place and everything. But
Yeah.
if at all I were to, ask you, like, what initial steps should a CPA take to start building this partnership?
And I would say I have good relationships with my CPA firms, and I value them. I really do. And some of the CPAs, frankly, have become friends, become personal friends. But the relationships with CPAs, it takes a long time. CPAs notoriously, and most of them will admit this, that they're not great at marketing.
Uh-huh.
They're not great at marketing. They don't like it. They're not good at it. And again, this is not me. This is from them. My experience with CPAs telling me this.
No,
So
I agree to you.
that's
I agree to you
right.
on that. Yeah.
So it takes a long time. And the other thing is that based upon what financial advisors are told by their hiring firms out of the gates, most of them at least, are go meet 20 CPAs and be the
Hmm.
go-to guy for that CPA. And so CPAs are getting pounded by financial advisors. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. I can do all these things for your client. One of my CPA firms, they actually don't take any more calls from financial advisors because, frankly, the financial advisor calls got so obnoxious. They were just like, you know what? Enough. We don't have the time during the day to waste for an advisor to kind of bully their way into our firm.
Yep.
So it does take a long time for that trust to build. And it also takes a long time for the trust to build, to understand that it's a mutual relationship that has a goal of helping the client. My goal has to be helping the client. The CPA's goal has to be helping the client. When we work together, we're working together to help the client. And sometimes it takes a long time to build that relationship, build that trust. It's for CPAs. I almost think it's challenging, right? It's challenging because I sought after the CPAs with whom I'm friends with now, and who I have the
Hmm.
relationships with now. I sought after them. I think it's tough to go the other way because any CPA calls any financial advisor, the financial advisor will be like, "Yeah, we could partner. We could
Always
partner with you."
ready.
Always.
Always
There's
ready.
no way they're saying no. There's no
Yeah.
way they're saying.
Yeah.
But do they really have the tools, tactics, and strategies to help make the CPA's relationship with the client better?
Hmm.
And is there trust there?
Yep.
Is there trust
Yep.
there? I don't know. So it's hard. But again, a lot of CPAs do know financial advisors.
Yep.
It's probably one of those things where taking a CPA to take another step and say to the advisor with whom they trust, if they've built that relationship, hey, I'm thinking about doing some things where we could potentially share in revenue. How would that look? And see what the advisor has to say and leave it open
Absolutely.
ended.
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of MyCPE 1 to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
In fact, financial advisory it's not a one size fits all, right?
Mm-mm.
You gotta talk, and like you talk to that client of yours, you share that story that you talk to them, you gotta know what is it that they really want to achieve. And I guess financial advisors are really good at this. And you know that's the advantage that CPAs are able to capitalize on when they reach out to people. And I also believe that it's necessary for people to also understand that it's not just about helping a client. Financial advisors bring a lot more on the table. I mean, the term itself is like financial planning, but there is financial planning, there is exit planning, there's retirement planning, there is wealth planning, there is marriage, kids, everything. There's so many things that are involved here, right? I mean, you could probably keep on talking on it forever, right?
One of the
Like,
things I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and the host asked me, he said, what are some things that people don't realize financial advisors do that you really do?" And I said, most people think we just manage investments. I said, one
yeah.
of the things that we do that most people don't realize that we do is that we're around during the good times, but we're around during the bad times too. And
Mhm.
I mean, I've been to many funerals for clients. I've had a lot of conversations, uh, some coffee talk with people going through family life events, whether it's a sick parent, whether it's, something that's fun, like putting their kid through school, although it's not so fun when you think about the finances of it. Um, I've had clients that have been sued or are
Mhm.
thinking about suing for whatever legal matter, and we don't have to get into that. But
Mhm.
for example, I'm working with a client right now, and there are some legal matters that are part of their life now, where she's um, not really being treated fairly at work, and she's
Mhm.
very frustrated. And so and she's also close to retirement. So the conversation that we have had is her asking me, are my finances going to be okay if I have to prosecute this lawsuit? And for me to say yes or no, me being there again as that wingman has been amazingly helpful for her, because she realized, okay, she's got to handle the things with her work, but I'm going to take care of her finances to make sure that they don't go off the rails during that time. So it's
Absolutely.
it's 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 very easy to be there when the markets are going up and things are rosy. But when financial advisors, I think we earn our keep is being there when things aren't as rosy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, look, the client's portfolio, everybody wants the client portfolios to be good. But at the end of the day, it's also something that's going to increase the revenue for both the professionals involved as well, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a win-win. It's a win-win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
So
To use the cliche, right?
it is a cliche. It is a cliche, like win-win-win. I guess this is like
I
a key
know. I
highlight of.
hate using it, but it's true.
Yeah, it is. So, what strategies have you found effective in increasing the revenue through this CPA financial advisory partnerships?
It's I found it very effective, actually. And the clients embrace it too. I haven't had a situation where a client has said, because we there are disclosures that we need to do that
Hmm.
basically tell the client, okay, you're working with, you know, John and Jane CPA firm. By working with them, and if they introduced me, if we do any work together, Mr. and Mrs. Client, then there is a revenue sharing that I do with the CPA. So I haven't had anyone say anything negative. They're like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. That makes sense." That's usually the comment they say. "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, why wouldn't you?"
Yeah,
Right? So it's
yeah.
not it hasn't been I haven't had a situation where it's been a negative thing, not once. It's not to say that it won't happen, probably will, but not
Uh-huh.
yet. Um, so that's been a really good part of it.
Hmm.
Is that the clients really embrace it?
Hmm.
Is it,
Hmm.
and then that's and if not to mention, if they buy in, it's better, because when we show a strategy that is able to, for example, save the client a massive amount in tax money. Again, I don't need to be the hero. Let the
Yeah,
CPA who's doing the innovative tax planning, let them be the hero. I'm just the tool that's making it all happen.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Like,
and in the world of CPAs now, especially after COVID, when so
uh-huh.
many things are going virtual,
Yep.
and some of the CPAs I talk to, when they do returns for some clients, they never even talk to them. The clients upload all of their tax documents into the CPA's portal. The CPA prepares the tax return, fires it off to them, electronic signature, electronic filing, and they say, if you have any questions, give me a ring. I'm happy to talk to you about it. But a lot of times clients are like, okay, we're good. And they never even talk. They just file their return. So in that world where things have become more and more commoditized in the CPA world, especially, to be able to produce new and innovative tax planning strategies makes the CPA look like a rock star, but also they're going to hold on to that client more. That client's going to
Yep.
be much more sticky, because then if they think, well, maybe I'm thinking about using a new CPA next year. Wait, I'm not going to leave that CPA firm because they introduced me to this investment strategy that's saving me tons of money in taxes.
Right.
So
Right.
it helps the client, it helps the CPA not only increase their revenue, but make that client stay with them longer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you said it very right. And I think, it's the tax planning. Tax planning plays a very pivotal role in these partnerships, right? I mean, give me an example. I mean, you know, just for argument's sake, what role does tax planning play in this partnership? How significant is it?
Well, I take the two terms of tax planning and tax preparation as separate. Tax preparation is typically what the CPAs are doing, and that's looking in the past. What happened
Mm-hmm.
last year? How can we save you money on last year's return? On what year we're in 2024? How can we save on 2023's return? How can we save money looking backwards? Tax planning is something that's forward thinking. That's looking into the future. How can we save you $1 in taxes tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5, 10 years from now? And that's an active process of tax called tax planning. Now, while there are separate silos for those two pieces, most times people are going to CPAs for tax preparation, but they also want the tax planning part of it. And
Yeah.
that's why where some of the gap exists,
Yeah.
because clients want the tax planning. The CPAs sometimes don't have the tools or the strategies to do the tax planning, but they want to.
Yeah.
They want
Yeah.
to. They
Yep.
want to. They want to, and they want to give it to their clients. They just don't know how to bridge that gap. And
Yep.
what a financial
Yep.
advisor can bridge that gap. They
Yep.
can bridge
Yep.
that
Yep.
gap, put in the tax planning strategies, again, make the CPA look like a hero and benefit the client and give them something that
Absolutely.
they want. The clients want
Yep.
it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when all these things are going to happen, and I'm sure it's going to happen, but then there are always some misconceptions, Eric. What are some common misconceptions that CPAs have about working with financial advisors that you could?
It's funny. Some of the misconceptions are, it's tough. It's like some of the misconceptions are almost true. Like, like for example, one of the CPA firms I told you that they don't take calls from financial advisors anymore. And when every now and again, I'll go out to lunch with one of the CPAs there who takes those phone calls, and he'll just share the stories of just how obnoxious some people are. And
Mhm.
again, it's that level that's keeping the relationship between the CPA and the advisor. It's keeping that kind of negative vibe is keeping that relationship separate when it should be together.
Yep.
So, the misconception, I think, one is that the advisor is going to be too heavy-handed with the client. And the way that I handle that with every one of the CPAs that I work with is that these are your clients. Okay. If you're going to do the amazing step of giving me the introduction of that client that you care about, knowing that I can help them, it's going to be on their pace, and it's never going to be pushy. So I'm sure I don't like pushy people. I don't like pushy people. Most people don't like
Nobody
pushy
likes
people.
it.
Nobody
Nobody
likes pushy,
likes
right?
that.
So I make it a commitment to the accountant is that, one, I'm going to keep you in the loop on everything that's going on, and two, it's never going to be pushy. I'm going to show them the recommendation of how we can plan effectively to save them money in taxes. And if they say no, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. But it's never going to be, the heavy-handed, full throttle sales pitch. It's going to be, no,
Mhm.
this is what I believe as a fiduciary. This is what I believe is going to be the best course of action for you. So, the misconception sometimes are true, is that sometimes financial advisors can be a little pushy, can be a little bit in your face. And, that's not the approach that I take. And, you know, maybe it's cost me clients in the past where I haven't been as pushy as I could have been. Maybe, but I'll
Mhm.
fall on that sword. It's really got to be at the client's pace, and to make sure, because again, you're getting that referral from an accountant. You
Right.
mess up one of them, it looks badly on the accountant, and you're going to have a tough time getting another referral from that accountant, because now they're gun shy. Now they're gun
Absolutely.
shy. So you really have to tread carefully and do exactly what you're going to say you're going to do, and really, and again, using a cliche, but it's true. You have to over deliver and under promise.
Yeah. Okay. That's
We're
interesting.
full of
Well,
cliches today, Saul.
yeah, it is, and it's good, it's good. But because you see, this is all about the base of forming a trust, like you said, and this takes a long time. And what you've just said, I think, forms a really good, base for building that trust. Because when somebody's referring you, you got to make sure that their reputation is at stake as well, and you don't want to hamper that. And I
Yeah.
guess it's the same way for the other way around as well. Like, if at all you were to come across somebody and you're like, hey, I really need help with some tax preparation, and you're like, okay, I know a
I
bunch of
love doing
CPAs.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoy connecting people to,
Yeah.
like for example, I have a couple out in New York State, and they are thinking about retiring, and we were going through their full plan, and they didn't have their wills done. So I sent them to my trust and estate attorney. So the trust estate attorney who I recommend, who I trust, who can help them in that state. And I like making that connection. For the clients, they know they needed it. They know they
Yep.
they were in their 60s, they don't have wills. They know they need them, right? And my trust and estate attorney is a very smart, good attorney, and she's going to benefit too. So I love making those types of connections. I don't think everybody does, but I do, because I think some people think, well, if I'm not going to get paid on it, am I really going to spend any time on it? And I
Mhm.
think I think that's a nearsighted, and I also think it's a nearsighted way of thinking, and that's not a real good life philosophy. Hey, if I can help somebody and maybe not get paid on it, that's okay. That's my choice. What goes around, another cliche, what goes around comes around. What goes around,
It does.
if you put the good, right? You put the good
Yeah.
energy out, does it come back to you? I think so.
Yeah. I think, what goes around comes around. Now might be a time, maybe a little bit off tangent, but, I really want everybody to know about that story with the physician wherein you actually suited up early in the morning. Uh,
Well, should I tell that story?
yeah, that was so
So
much. I mean, great
so
one.
that, like I said, when you get out of the gates of being a financial advisor, your firm usually says work with lawyers, doctors, athletes, and accountants. And I had a lot of friends on Wall Street, so that's where I started. The folks who ultimately became clients. And then about 4 years into my practice, one of my friends who was not a physician introduced me a friend of his who is a physician. And he said, he probably could use some help. Just go talk to him. I said, sure, go talk to him. And met with this neurosurgeon, super nice guy. And he walks in, he's like, I'm not sure you can really help me. And I said, okay. I said, but you obviously have some things on your mind. What's cooking? He goes, well, the question I have for you, and he holds up his 401k statement. He goes, when do I have to pay this back? And I said, wait, it's your 401k statement? He goes, yeah, I have to pay this back at some point, don't I? And I said, no, that's the money that you're saving for your own retirement. That's my money. And I said, yeah, that's your money. And so he's like, okay, I think we have a lot more to talk about then. So it turns out
Yeah.
physician, and this guy is brilliant, brilliant,
Hmm.
brilliant. I mean, a neurosurgeon. I mean, but physicians, and they'll tell you this, they don't get taught financial health in medical school. They don't
Yep.
get taught it in medical school. They don't get taught it in residency. And then when they're opening their practice or joining a practice or joining a group, they don't get taught financial literacy, financial health. They're just supposed to heal their patients.
Yep. Yep.
So there was a lot of work to do for the neurosurgeon. A lot of we redid his we did some insurance, some disability. Disability insurance is all wrong, so we redid it. We
Hmm.
implemented life insurance. We did some college planning. We did some estate planning, some tax planning. Did a little bit of everything for him.
Hmm.
So this was also the days before electronic signature really had taken hold. So I needed some documents that were signed
Yeah.
and to implement on the plan. And he
Yeah.
goes, well, listen, I'm in surgery. It was Tuesday. He goes, I'm in
Hmm.
surgery tomorrow, and then I go on vacation for 2 weeks. I'm not going to be around. And I'm like, doc, I need you for 30 seconds. These documents have a shelf life to them. Now I've prepared them. I've got to get them signed within a certain period of time, or else I have to redo them. And he's like, I go, what time does OR start tomorrow? He's like, listen, he's like, can you meet me at 6:30? He's like, I'll get you in. Just meet me at 6:30. He's like, oh, you need me to sign? I go, that's all I need you for. So he sets it up with his surgical coordinator, his OR scheduler. And I walk in, not to the OR, obviously, because it's sterile, but
Yeah.
I walk into the prep room, and I'm the only bald dude in a suit carrying a briefcase, and his entire surgical team are like, "Who's that guy?"
Hmm.
And he said, "Oh man," he's like, "You guys got to talk to Eric." He's like, he actually said, he goes, he's my financial wingman. He goes, I just did all this stuff with him, and I didn't realize I needed it, but I've got my wills done now. I've got my college planning in place. I've got all of these things in place. He's like, you guys got to talk to these guys, to him. So as I'm walking out, I've got all these guys just, they're like, don't touch me, but call me later, and getting their phone number. So, and it was literally, it was probably a 4-minute meeting, and I walked out with 6 referrals. The
Wow.
type of all from the neurosurgeon. And to this day, the neurosurgeon not only is he a great client, but again, we've developed a friendship over the years. Just
Yep.
because we get kids the same age, and a lot of times when we're talking about his finances, the first half hour just us catching up, talking about our kids and where they are in the world and stuff like that. I mean, those long-term relationships are worth their weight in gold.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
All right. So, as we move forward, I would love to know, what tools or resources can facilitate a better collaboration between CPAs and financial advisors.
Well, the first thing is definitely the trust foundation. It's really going to be built on a foundation of trust, and then communication too. Is the communicating to the CPAs. Well, first, I asked the CPAs when they introduce me to a new client of theirs, or introduce me to a client of theirs that new client would potentially be a new client of mine. I asked them, how involved do you want to be? Do you want to be on every phone call that we talked about? Do you want to be on some of the phone calls, or do you want to be on any of the phone calls? Excuse me, on any of the phone calls. And everybody's kind of different. I have a couple CPAs that want to be on every phone call, and just sometimes they just want to listen. Sometimes they just want to, they just feel comfortable being there, and that's fine. Sometimes it's middle of the road where they want to be on some phone calls and not on others, and that's fine too. But I would say the majority of the CPAs say, no, you handle it from here. Just keep me in the loop if there's anything I need to do. So for example, there's a client that was a referral from one of my CPA firms a couple of weeks ago. It's a business that has an existing 401k. It wasn't set up properly, and so we're redesigning the 401k. And I'm telling her about all the redesign work, and she said, "Okay, just let me know when it's implemented," and that's coming soon. So it's a matter of communicating to her all of the major milestones that we're hitting. And then for this head of the CPA firm, I have a list of clients that I send to him on a quarterly basis that are all the clients that have referred, that they have referred, and whether or not those clients have progressed into a relationship with me. Because not every person that gets introduced to me becomes a client, and that's okay. But I want to show that, okay, John and Jane Doe, you introduced me, Mr. CPA. They didn't move forward, but I still wanted to let you know that I'm tracking that. Like, I know who you're introducing me to. And then, John and Jane Smith, you introduced me to them. They did become a client, and this is the moment that we're sharing in revenues.
Yep. I guess communication, you're absolutely right. Communication is the base for the building that trust in the relationship. And you rightly pointed out what needs to be communicated, because I think that's important, keeping them updated on what's happening. And I guess it's a two-way street, right? When CPA refers to you and when you refer to somebody, I guess the ownership goes both ways. You got
it definitely does.
Yeah,
it definitely does. And then you realize you're really creating a long, trusting relationship with the CPAs. And there's been times where we're just having brainstorming sessions where I'm calling up a CPA. I'm like, hey, I have this client has a scenario. This is what's going on. And they're like, and what the CPAs have done is saying, well, why don't we have a chat? They don't have to become a client, but let them just explain to me a little bit more about their specific tax issue. And the CPA and I and the client will jump on the phone, and it just, again, it's introducing the CPA to a potential new client, but two, it's also, it's helping me because I'm getting expertise from the CPA. It's helping my client. Sometimes they move CPAs and sometimes they don't. And again, because of that long-term relationship with the CPA, they're okay with doing some of the brainstorming every now and again.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when these collaborations are happening, oftentimes there are some challenges that none of you can prepare for. I mean, like, you have to do a brainstorming with a CPO. How are you going to address this? Like, for example, if I were to talk about right now, the buzzword that I'm hearing is the 2025 sunset for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Like, everybody's like, oh, I mean, there's the Secure Act 2.0, there's the Tax Cuts and Jobs, the 2025 sunset and everything. So how are you preparing for it? Or, what are you planning? How do you plan to adapt to these financial landscapes? What tips would you want to give to everybody?
Well, we are in an election year. So we know it's going to be obviously chaotic. So again, on terms of new acts, it's communication. it's really communication. And what a lot of, and this is not just me, this is what a lot of tax attorneys and the state attorneys have said about the sunsetting of the cuts for next year, is let's kind of wait and see what's going to happen with the election. But I think really what we look at is, regardless of way the tax laws are shaping up, we need to make sure that we are doing some tax planning on an active basis every year. And that's going to look like a smaller project for some clients. It's going to look like a much bigger project from other clients. But I think it's always got to be something that's the forefront, because if you ask clients, and there's a lot of surveys about this, one of the things that clients always talk about, whether it's their relationship with their CPA or relationship with their financial advisor, it's how are they going to save more money in taxes? So how are we going to do it?
Everybody wants to save money on their taxes, my friend.
Everybody, right? And we say too, is that I'm not about not giving the IRS what they deserve to get, but we don't want clients to pay one nickel more in taxes than they have to. And what we find, they pay a heck of a lot more than one nickel more to the IRS. Again, because it's the mindset. It's the mindset. Oh, it's my IRS bill. Like, it's my tax bill. I guess I just have to pay it. Well, maybe you do, but maybe there were some strategies that we can employ to make that tax bill be a lot lower or go away altogether.
Yeah, I mean, financial wisdom, or how would I say this? Financial illiteracy, or the lack of that knowledge about the financials. I guess it's always been there. I mean, there are people who are doing things to bring this to the notice, but there's still so much to be done. Like you rightly said, whether you're a physician or maybe you're an attorney or whatever you're going to be studying or becoming, you don't get taught how to deal with the finances. You just don't know your relationship with money. I mean, people have a different relationship with money, right? I mean, it's different.
Oh God. Well, and physicians are notorious. Taboo for physicians, or the taboo topic for physicians, is money. Physicians hate talking about money. I'll give you a great quote. I have one of the smartest people I've ever met as a client. She works at a very prestigious medical school. She writes the textbooks for a very complex topic. She's brilliant. She's also very sarcastic, and so she makes me laugh all the time. But when we go through, or we review her financial plan, her investments, her insurances, etc., she stops me and she goes, "Eric, I'd rather have my eyeballs tattooed than talk about my finances." And when she said that one, I go, wait, what did you just say? She goes, "I'd rather have my eyeballs tattooed than talk about my finances." She doesn't like talking about it. And that's very common for physicians. Physicians don't like talking about it. They don't like money as a taboo topic. If they make money, they like talking about how they made money, but they don't like talking about money. And it's I think we're trying to make some progress in financial health for physicians, but again, they're not taught how to do it in med school. They're certainly not taught how to do it in residency. When they start their practices, they're not taught how to do it then. And then the problem is that they feel so behind, because with all of their schooling and all of their potential debt from medical school, maybe they're in their mid to late 30s before they really start, like, they're feeling like they're making some money and they can put some money away from themselves. Then they feel behind because they haven't started saving when their friends started saving who aren't physicians. I mean, it's almost like this vicious circle. So, and that's where one of the beliefs that I have is, I think physicians need the financial health and the financial planning more so now than ever, based upon the fact that not only do they don't like talking about money, but they feel behind, so they don't take any action. And then they're in their 50s and 60s, and they're like, "Oh, screw! Now we're screwed. Now what do we do?"
Yeah, and I think also for the fact that when you're earning a lot, you tend to not really think about those things, because you're like, hey, I got a great place to live. I got a great car that I drive in. Everybody's happy. I got everything going on great. So things will take its course the way it is, But
yeah,
okay. Now, before we wrap this up, I wanted to touch on a sensitive topic. I actually was discussing this with another financial advisor of mine. Her name is Irene Slatko. And she actually brought up a very interesting point that whenever you're doing collaborations with other professionals and they are exposing their clients' financial information to you, you always have an ethical responsibility towards the information that you're exposed to. Sometimes you get exposed to information and you know, the person who referred you the client, they may be okay with that information, but you are like, hey, wait, this is not right, you know. So, you know, this dilemma of like if at all you came across a client who was referred who is into a cannabis business or something,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you are a person who personally does not embrace cannabis and you're like, hey, should I help or should I not help? But then at the end of the day, it's your ethical responsibility if somebody is in need for financial advice and assistance. You got to do it. But what are your takes on this?
So I think that there's a few pieces to that, and it hasn't been that many times as this has happened.
Uh-huh.
Let me say three. There was times where I said to potential clients, I don't think I'm your guy.
Uh-huh.
And one time it was just, I didn't get a very good feeling from the couple.
Uh-huh.
They were the meetings were very negative. Well, I don't know what you can do. I don't know what you're going to be able to do for me, Eric.
Oh,
And it was, I just walked in the door to meet them. And
yeah.
they were very negative. It's, I don't know what you're going to be able to do for me. I said, okay, well, here's what I can do for you. Well, we're not that, it was very, very back and forth. I was like, I don't think I'm your guy. If you would like, I can introduce you to someone.
Yeah.
I had a situation where I was working with two attorneys that both work in New York City, and they were in their early 50s at this time, both making very nice livings, both successful in their own right as attorneys,
Yeah.
and they were living the life. They spent every dime that they made. And when they wanted to retire at 55, and they were both like 51.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said to them, okay, here's the retirement plan that I can put together for you for 55, but it's going to require a little bit of life changes because you guys you don't save anything, nothing, not to their 401ks. If there was an expense, they just paid it out of pocket. They saved nothing. They spent money on living in New York City, eating out every night, and traveling. And their trips were fantastic. But they wanted me to retire, wanted to retire in 4 years, but they didn't want to make any lifestyle changes. And I said, I don't, why I think we can do some pretty magical things with engaged clients. I can't get blood from a stone.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know if I'm your guy, because this plan that you want me that I put together for you does require, does require some lifestyle changes. We got to start saving some money. And they said, no, we don't want to do that. And I was like, I don't know if I can help you then.
Yeah.
I said, I'm happy to be someone that you can talk to, but I don't think we should engage in a professional relationship, because I don't think they're probably still working to this day. Right.
I think you brought up a very interesting point that if anybody is really thinking about, some financial planning in whatever capacity, you got to be ready for those tough calls.
100%.
You got to be ready for it,
Well, so there were so many clients. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
But
go ahead.
there was a number of clients that I won during COVID. And remember that, the crazy days of COVID, when the markets were going down, we're all locked up. We don't know how serious COVID is. There's no vaccine out there. It was crazy, crazy times. Well, I was talking to some clients weekly, just saying, listen, the markets are down. This is because there's so much uncertainty in the market. This will come around. But after a good 6 or 7 weeks of talking to my clients weekly, some clients were like, okay, Eric, we get it. You don't have to call us every week. But I ended up getting a number of referrals from my existing clients because their friends were complaining about their financial advisors who weren't returning their phone calls because they were scared to tell them that their account balances had gone down. I said, well, that's not the time to be scared. Nobody believes it's because you devised a bad portfolio for these folks. Nobody saw
Yeah.
COVID coming. How could you
Yeah.
see this black swan event coming where we're all going to be locked down and, scrambling for toilet paper and sanitizing our groceries? It's crazy,
It
but
is
you have
crazy.
to communicate. You have to talk to your
Yep.
clients during the
Yep.
bad times too.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. You gotta face it, man. You gotta face
Got to
it.
face it.
And yep. Yep. Absolutely. Well, Eric, that has been enlightening as we come towards the very end of our discussion. What are your final thoughts on the future of a CPA financial advisor partnership?
I think the world is really wide open because I don't believe a lot of CPAs truly engage with a revenue sharing agreement with financial advisors. And again, to use the cliche, it's a win for the clients because they're getting the tax planning strategies and they're saving money in taxes. It's a win for the CPA because they're keeping the client, retaining the client for longer, possibly opening for more referral opportunities there, but also they're increasing their own revenue. And it's a win for the advisor. It is really truly a win across the board. So I do think there is a tremendous amount of opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Eric, for the great
Thanks, Saul.
discussion. Yep. And to our listeners, stay tuned for more episodes of your favorite podcast. We're trying to figure out what's so. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Cheers.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.